This is Grayson Presley reporting from his home regarding the serial killer by the name of Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Some family background information regarding Gary Ridgway was that his name was Gary Leon Ridgway and was born on February 18th of 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was later raised near Seattle's Pacific Highway in a deprived neighborhood near SeaTac Airport. On the map here, I know you can't see it that great, but he was born here, moved all the way up here where he lived, and then on this map was the highway where most of his victims were abducted. Now on to his family. His father, Thomas Newton Ridgway, was born on April 19, 1923 and died on January 21st, 1998. His occupation was a bus driver. His mother, Mary Rita Steinman Ridgway, was born on January 22nd, 1928, and died of 2001 when he was captured. Her occupation, was a salesperson at J.C. Penney. He had two brothers, Gregory Ridgway and Thomas Edward Ridgway, and later had a child by the name of Matthew Ridgway. Now to his home life. It was somewhat troubled. He watched his parents violently fight. He could never please his mother no matter what he did. His mother always yelled at his father. So he was basically in the same boat as his father. His parents were very strict on like after school activities, snacks, things like that of young boys that what they like to do. It says that his mother would get really mad at them and scream, and his father would beat them uncontrollably with a belt or a stick. As the second of the three brothers, Ridgway always acted as a reserve growing up, despite the chaos that surrounded him. Ridgway may not have been wild growing up, but his quiet demeanor helped him avoid capture for decades. Now into individual characteristics regarding Gary. He told the investigators he wet his bed until at the age of 13 or so, that he was a slow learner and a poor reader. He had been held back 2 grades before graduating from Tyee High School in what is now SeaTac in 1969. His IQ was in the low 80s, and he was very dyslexic. When he was 15, he walked up to a first grade boy near some bushes at a street corner and stabbed him in the side. He said that he simply wanted to know how it felt to stab someone. When he was 16, he stabbed a 6-year-old boy, but who had survived the attack. Ridgway had led the boy into the woods and then stabbed him through the ribs into the liver. He also dabbled in arson, paid a girl to let him fondle her genitals, and once suffocated a cat. The continuation of individual characteristics. He worked as a painter, a job that no one knew about, for almost 30 years. Nobody had a clue. Not when he drove to work with a corpse in his truck bed. Not when he left jewelry on his victims in the women's bathroom at Kenworth Truck, secretly delighting when he saw female coworkers wearing the jewelry. He wasn't a loner. He controlled his anger. He was either married or had a steady girlfriend for most of his life. Ridgway went from a childhood fascination with death to an insatiable desire to kill. Ridgway had become fanatically religious during his second marriage. He even went door to door reading the Bible aloud and insisting that Marcia follow the strict teachings of their church pastor. Ridgway would also frequently cry after sermons or reading the Bible, though Ridgway continued to solicit the services of prostitutes during his marriage, and also wanted Marcia to participate in sex in public and inappropriate places, sometimes even in areas where the victims' bodies had been discovered. Now to the serial killings. Ridgway wanted to kill as many women prostitutes as possible. Ridgway was obsessed with deviant sex and frequent prostitutes. That uncontrollable impulse, combined with his aggression and violence, were significant driving forces behind his murderous actions, says Mary L. O'Toole, a retired FBI senior profiler who also interviewed Ridgway. She said that the Green River Killer was disorganized because of his low IQ. He picked up women at the last minute and only murdered with his hands or cords, killed without concern for evidence, and had sex with the bodies after murdering them, which is called necrophilia. The Green River Killer was organized because he had a high victim count, personalized himself with the victims, and he was aware of the evidence he left at the scene, such as gum, semen, and cigarettes. continuation of the serial killing. Around 1980, Ridgway began killing prostitutes and young runaways. He hated prostitutes. He didn't want to pay them for sex. Most of the murders took place near Seattle and Tacoma, Washington. He strangled his victims because it wasn't messy. He would dump the bodies along the banks of the Green River. Hence, he was named the Green River Killer. In the picture are some of his victims that were murdered because of his impulses. It says that there are 48 victims here, but he admits to murdering over 70. His current status: in 1982, Gary Ridgway was arrested on a prostitution charge. He became a suspect in the killings, but after passing a polygraph test in which he claimed to be innocent, he was no longer considered to be a prime candidate. Members of the task force held on their suspicions and no samples of his hair and to samples of his hair and saliva. By 2001, investigators had DNA evidence of the murder, and it was compared to the strands of Ridgway's hair still in police custody. The samples matched. Ridgway was arrested on November 30th of 2001 after being linked to the murders of 4 women. During the trial in 2003, Ridgway pleaded guilty to the murders of 48 women. He claimed that there were more victims, as many as 90 in total. To avoid the death penalty, he agreed to help police officials locate the remains of his victims that had not been yet discovered. Ridgway was sentenced to 48 consecutive prison sentences. He currently resides at the Washington State Penitentiary and has no hope of parole. Some interesting facts regarding Gary is that he was sexually attracted to his own mother. He passed a lie detector test. He was married 3 times. He felt that choking his victims was a reward. He took his son camping and had 2 or 3 dead bodies in his car. He paid for everything in cash to leave no record of the trip and dumped the remains in the Oregon area as to make detectives think the Green River Killer was moving south. This is what they like to call a forensic countermeasure. Some references was biography.com, Wikipedia contributors, Shelton J. Inside Gary Ridgway's Childhood, Revere R. Seattle Times, Ridgway went from having sex with prostitutes to just plain killing them, and Morris D. Gary Leon Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Also, Murderpedia helped me in finding out about Gary Ridgway. So, soon to be in the BAU Racing Presser, reporting for duty. We're out of here.